The Second Punic War. From the Alps to Zama. After the First Punic War dragged on for 23 long years, one might have thought the sharing issues in the Mediterranean between the Roman Republic and Carthage had been amicably resolved. But no. As it turned out, that was merely an intermission. Both Rome and Carthage, despite the devastating, exhausting losses they had both just suffered, dived straight into the Second Punic War. Immediately after round one, both sides needed time to heal up. But while Carthage was busy putting down a rebellion among its own mercenaries, who suddenly demanded their paychecks after the war ended, Rome, in the spirit of neighborly kindness, took the opportunity to snatch the island of Corsica. And while they were at it, they also applied pressure to request Sardinia as well. Carthage, having lost Sicily and now 2 more islands, was starting to get salty. They decided they needed to rebuild their life elsewhere. General Hamilcar and his son Hasdrubal were sent to Spain to establish a colony and raise a new army. They did their job well, gradually expanding their influence throughout the Iberian Peninsula. Rome, of course, couldn't just sit by and watch its old enemy get strong again. They started to worry. So, when Saguntum, a small city in Spain, hinted at wanting an alliance, Rome immediately agreed. At first, Hannibal, Carthage's new young general and Hamilcar's son, turned a blind eye, allowing Saguntum to trade to avoid conflict. But Saguntum, now with Rome as its big brother for protection, began to provoke other Spanish cities that were allied with Carthage. Ignoring all threats from Rome, Hannibal decided to attack Saguntum in 219 BCE. The city cried out to Rome for help, but its pleas fell on deaf ears. Rome was too busy to notice. After a bloody siege in which Hannibal himself was wounded, the Carthaginians captured the city. Many of Saguntum's residents chose suicide over slavery. Only then did Rome wake up and try to use diplomacy. They demanded that Carthage dismiss Hannibal and hand him over. Carthage flatly refused. And, just like that, in 218 BCE, round 2 of the Punic Wars officially began. In the late spring of 218 BCE, Hannibal set out from Spain, beginning one of the greatest and most reckless military treks in history: the invasion of the Italian peninsula. After cleaning up a few tribes in his path at the Pyrenees, he marched into Gaul. Meanwhile, a Roman fleet led by the Scipio brothers was en route to Iberia. They knew Hannibal had crossed the Ebro, but were completely baffled to hear the Carthaginian army was already at the upper Rhone. At the same time, news arrived of a Gallic revolt in northern Italy. Hannibal, avoiding a major battle, quickly executed an unimaginable feat: crossing the Alps. A horrific march through harsh climate and treacherous terrain caused his army to shrink considerably. But he had made it to northern Italy. His first act was to pacify the hostile Torini, after which he immediately ran into a Roman army under Publius Cornelius Scipio. In the subsequent Battle of Ticinus, Hannibal's elite cavalry taught a lesson to the Roman cavalry and light infantry in a brief skirmish. As a result, nearly all the Gallic tribes in northern Italy, who already despised Rome, eagerly signed up with Hannibal, adding tens of thousands of new troops to his army. In early spring 217 BCE, Hannibal decided to advance. He bypassed the Roman positions, taking the only unguarded route through the marshes of the Arno into Etruria. Once there, Hannibal tried to bait the main Roman army under Flaminius into a decisive battle. Flaminius, with the classic confidence of a Roman general, took the bait and gave chase without bothering to scout ahead. In a narrow gorge on the shore of Lake Trasimene, Hannibal set one of the most perfect ambushes in history. The Roman army, trapped between the lake and the mountainside, was completely wiped out. General Flaminius was killed. Another Roman cavalry force sent to help was also intercepted and destroyed. Strategically, Hannibal had eliminated the only army that could block his path to Rome. This news sent the city into a state of absolute panic. In desperation, the Senate had to grant full authority to a dictator, Quintus Fabius Maximus. Fabius was a realist. He knew he couldn't beat Hannibal in a straight fight. So, he gave the order to dodge. The Fabian strategy was born. Avoid direct battle at all costs. Engage only in guerrilla warfare. Harass and poke the enemy until the Carthaginian army grew weak. This initiative, of course, was unpopular with the eager-to-fight soldiers and made Rome's allies nervous. Fabius constantly harassed Hannibal, but after Hannibal ravaged Apulia and Fabius still refused to fight, Hannibal decided to march into Campania, one of Italy's richest provinces. Fabius thought he had a chance to trap the Carthaginian army there, but Hannibal, with a clever trick, involving oxen with torches on their horns, slipped the trap safely in the Battle of Ager Falernus. Hannibal's goal of winning over allies in 217 BCE had failed, but the reputation of Fabius the Cunctator, or the Saint of Dodging, was also severely damaged. By the spring of 216 BCE, Rome decided it couldn't dodge anymore. They went all in. The Senate empowered two consuls, Terentius Varro and Aemilius Paulus, and gave them an unprecedentedly large army, around 100,000 men. Both were determined to find Hannibal and settle the score. They found Hannibal at Cannae, on the banks of the Aufidius River. Hannibal, seeing his enemy was overeager and twice his size, exploited Varro's enthusiasm and lured him into a trap. At the Battle of Cannae, Hannibal executed the double envelopment tactic, a deadly hug, perfectly. The Roman army, despite its numbers, was surrounded on all sides with no avenue of escape. The result was a catastrophe. The largest, most humiliating defeat Rome had ever suffered. Around 70,000 Roman soldiers were killed or captured. After this defeat, Rome's alliance system in southern Italy fell apart like dominoes. City after city switched sides to join Hannibal. All of Sicily became Carthage's ally. Syracuse, Capua, Italy's second largest city, and even King Philip V of Macedon declared their support for Hannibal, launching the First Macedonian War against Rome. Hannibal sent a delegation to Rome to negotiate peace, but astoundingly, the Roman Senate, though panicked, still refused every demand. They would rather die than surrender. By 215 BCE, Hannibal essentially controlled most of southern Italy. However, he repeatedly failed to take the fortress city of Nola. The war bogged down. Hanno, one of Hannibal's subordinates, tried to raise an army in Samnium but was defeated by the Romans. In 212 BCE, Carthage captured Tarentum but was stymied at Capua. History repeated itself as Hanno was defeated again at Beneventum. Hannibal scored more victories at Salaris and Herdonia, but he could not land a decisive, fatal blow. While Hannibal was bogged down in Italy, the war in Iberia, Spain, took a decisive turn. In 211 BCE, the two Scipio brothers, Rome's commanders there, were defeated and killed in the Battle of the Upper Baetis. Rome's hopes in Iberia were all but lost. And then, the plot twist of the war arrived. In 210 BCE, the Senate sent a young commander, the son of the fallen Publius Scipio, to Iberia. His name was Publius Cornelius Scipio, later known as Africanus. Immediately, Scipio made things happen. He launched a lightning attack and captured Cartagena, New Carthage, the center of Carthaginian power in Iberia. The tide of the war officially turned. In 208 BCE, Scipio defeated Hannibal Barca, Hannibal's brother, at the Battle of Baecula. Though Hannibal escaped and marched his army to Italy to try and reinforce Hannibal, Scipio had broken Carthage's back in Spain. In 206 BCE, at the Battle of Ilipa, Scipio completely annihilated the combined Carthaginian forces. Carthage's presence in Iberia was finished. Mago, another of Hannibal's brothers, tried to land in Italy but was defeated. Now, Scipio, Rome's new hero, decided to play a game of turnabout as fair play, a direct invasion of Africa. Within a year of landing, Scipio had twice routed Carthage's main armies. In 203 BCE, while Scipio was running rampant in Africa, Hannibal, after nearly 15 years of fighting in Italy without being able to break Rome, was recalled to Carthage to lead the defense. The decisive battle, the grand finale of the war, took place in October 202 BCE at Zama. This time everything was reversed. The Romans had the superior cavalry, thanks to a new Numidian alliance, while Carthage had the superior infantry. When the battle began, Scipio successfully decoded the war elephant attack, causing them to panic and run back through the Carthaginian lines. This Roman cavalry quickly shattered the Carthaginian cavalry and then wheeled around to attack Hannibal's rear. His veteran infantry line, attacked from both front and back, finally collapsed. After this defeat, it was Hannibal himself, the great general, who convinced the Carthaginians to accept peace. The Battle of Zama had forced him to taste true defeat. This war, while less costly in terms of ships than the first, was a fatal blow to Carthage. According to the terms of the peace treaty, Carthage was demoted to a client state of Rome, lost all its territories outside of Africa, was forbidden from having a large military or navy, and had to pay a crippling war indemnity. Now, the Romans were officially the undisputed masters of the vast Mediterranean. Thanks for watching.